In New Jersey, some debates are they're more than arguments. They're practically a way of life. They tell you who a person is, where they're from, and for decades, one single question has split the Garden State right in two. It's a question that feels like it should have a really simple answer, but it absolutely does not.
Does Central Jersey exist? Seems easy enough, right? Well, not so much. For some people, it's just a geographical fact, plain and simple. But for others, it's a complete myth, a phantom zone made up by folks who just can't decide if they're from the north or the south. I mean, for millions of people who live there, the answer is a total no-brainer. It's not just some region on a map. It's home. It's where they live, where they work. And there's a real pride in being a Central Jerseyan. You can just hear the confidence when they say it. But then, of course, you've got the skeptics. From the super dense suburbs right outside New York City, all the way down to the farmlands closer to Philly, a lot of people will tell you flat out, there is north, there is south, and there is absolutely nothing in between. The whole idea of a central region, to them, it's just a fantasy. And this just perfectly sums up the passion behind the whole debate. Depending on who you ask, this middle chunk of the state is either the very soul of New Jersey, its heart, or its belly, or, well, something a little less flattering, like that nice little armpit around the bend of the Delaware. Ouch. This whole argument got so heated, so persistent, that in 2023, the government actually decided to step in. They figured it was time to just end the speculation and give everyone an official, legally binding answer. And boom, there you have it. August 24th, 2023, Governor Phil Murphy signs a bill into law with a statement that could not be clearer. He didn't just suggest it exists, he made it the law of the land. So that settles it. The debate is officially over, right? Okay, so let's dig into what this law actually does. Senate Bill S. 3206 is really all about economics and marketing. It forces the state's tourism division to draw Central Jersey on all its official maps, and more importantly, to promote it as its own unique destination, highlighting its history and all its attractions. Now, what's really interesting here is how the law defines the region. At a minimum, Central Jersey is made up of these four core counties. You've got Middlesex, which is a huge population and transit hub. There's Mercer, home to the state capital, and of course Princeton. Then you have Somerset, a big historical and corporate center, and Hunterdon, with all its rural charm and farms. So why the sudden push for an official definition? Well, it pretty much boils down to money. One of the bill's sponsors pointed out that while the rest of the state's tourism was bouncing back after the pandemic, this central region was still down by about 20%. So the thinking was, give it a clear identity, and maybe you can give it a much-needed economic boost. But, as you've probably guessed, you can't just pass a law and erase decades of cultural identity. While the government is busy drawing lines around counties, the people of New Jersey have their own, let's say, unofficial ways of knowing where one region ends and the next one begins. And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The official borders, they're these neat, clean, administrative county lines on a map. But the real, on-the-ground borders people feel, they're defined by stuff you see and interact with every single day, the rivers you cross and the highways you drive on. Yeah, ask a local, and they're going to point to landmarks like these. So many people say crossing the Driscoll Bridge over the Raritan River is the true gateway between North and Central Jersey. Other folks use the highways. Anything north of I-78 is north, anything south of I-195 is south. But maybe the best sign of all? You know for sure you're in Central Jersey when you can flip through the channels and get the news from both New York City and Philadelphia. But hey, identity is about way more than just maps and highways, right? In New Jersey, it's also about what you eat for breakfast. And absolutely nothing, I mean nothing, defines the state's cultural divide like the war over a certain processed meat. This whole thing actually has a fascinating backstory. It all started back in 1856 when a guy named John Taylor from Trenton, which, by the way, is squarely in Central Jersey, invented Taylor's prepared ham. But then, in 1906, a new law said his product couldn't legally be called ham anymore, so he had to change the name to pork roll. But that original name, Taylor ham, it really stuck. Well, in one part of the state at least. And just look at this data from a Rutgers poll. It shows the battle lines perfectly. In North Jersey, it's overwhelmingly Taylor ham. In South Jersey, it is definitively pork roll. And where's the culinary demilitarized zone? You guessed it, Central Jersey. Pork roll has the edge here, but it's the only place where both names have a real major following. It is the true battleground.
All right, so beyond food, there's another cultural test that splits the state right down the middle: sports. Since New Jersey doesn't have a Major League football or baseball team with its name on the jersey, loyalties get pulled in two totally different directions. The whole state is basically caught in this massive gravitational tug of war between two of the biggest sports cities in the country. To the north, you've got the giant orbit of New York City, and to the south, you have the undeniable pull of Philadelphia. And the allegiances are crystal clear. North Jersey bleeds Giants blue and Yankees pinstripes, or maybe Jets green and Mets orange. South Jersey is a sea of Eagles green and Phillies red. And what about Central Jersey? Once again, it's the contested territory, the place where you'll find an Eagles fan and a Giants fan living right next door to each other. So, after all of this, the laws, the highways, the breakfast meets, the sports teams, what is the real Central Jersey? Well, the answer seems to be that its true identity is found in its in-betweenness. I think this quote from a resident just absolutely nails it. Central Jersey isn't one thing or the other. It's this unique blend of both. It's the place where that fast-paced, hectic energy of the New York metro area starts to chill out and soften into the more laid-back, rural vibe of the South. You see, its identity is defined just as much by what it isn't. It refuses to be completely pulled into that powerful orbit of New York City, unlike all the counties just above it. And at the same time, it's not totally claimed by the culture of Philadelphia either. It just kind of holds its own ground, refusing to be defined by either extreme. So what does that make it? Central Jersey is the crossroads. It's the transition zone. It's the cultural melting pot where North and South smash into each other, they blend together, and they create something totally new. Its identity isn't a lack of one, it's the presence of both. And that leaves us with one last big question. For decades, this passionate, relentless, and honestly pretty funny debate over Central Jersey's existence has given the region its unique character. So now that a law has settled it, what happens to the identity that was born from the argument itself?